Shabbat Shalom. This is Daniel John Lee with Torah Restoration Ministries. This YouTube is being recorded on February the 23rd, 2013. It is the 13th day of Adar, 13th day of the 12th month, which means that starting tonight, going through tomorrow and the next day, we have the celebration of Purim. Purim, which always happens on the 14th and 15th day of Adar. Of course, you can read about the entire story of Purim in the Book of Esther. I came out with an article and a video on Purim last year. I'll provide links in the video to those from last year. And this year, I want to explore something a little different in the Book of Esther, something that I just discovered not too long ago with some friends of mine as we were doing a study on the Book of Esther. But there are some amazing prophetic implications, prophetic shadow pictures in the Book of Esther. I've always known that Esther does have shadow pictures pointing toward the end times, but I hadn't seen some of these that were in the book. Maybe some of you have already found these. I don't know, but I'd like to share what I found. Starting in Esther 3:10, when the king Ahasuerus first allows Haman to go forth with his plan to destroy the Jewish people, it says the king took his ring from his hand and gave it unto Haman, the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the Jews' enemy. So the king officiates this, seals it with his ring, and allows Haman to have this power. Then, if you flip forward to Esther 8, verse 8, so toward the end of the story, this is when the king is now allowing Mordecai to have the upper hand. And it says, "Write ye also for the Jews, as it liketh you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring. For the writing which is written in the king's name, and seal with the king's ring, may no man reverse." So there's the first prophetic picture. We first have the king's ring giving Haman the power, and then it comes now with the king's ring to give Mordecai and Esther the power to overcome the enemies of the Jews. And what I saw here is that only Yahshua HaMashiach, the Messiah, will be able to defeat the Antichrist. He's the only one that's going to be able to overcome the evil that comes across this earth for those final 42 months of the Antichrist reign. The next prophetic picture after that is if you look at Esther 8, verse 15. Now, this is after Haman has been killed, after Esther and Mordecai have attained the victory. And it says, Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in royal apparel of blue and white, and with a great crown of gold, and with a garment of fine linen and purple. And the city of Shushan rejoiced and was glad. So right there in that verse, that is a picture of the resurrection. So on Yom Teruah, some Yom Teruah in the future, I believe Yom Teruah 2017, Yahshua is going to resurrect his bride. We're going to be called up to meet him in the sky, and we're going to be given new bodies. And I think with Mordecai being clothed in this royal apparel, that is a direct picture of the resurrection, of us receiving our new bodies, receiving new names, and being with Yahshua, being made like the angels, and being known as we are known by Yah. And I just think that's a beautiful picture there. Then, after the resurrection, we have a picture of the wedding feast of the Lamb, and also something else here. It's in Esther 8, verse 17. I'll read verse 16 too. It says, "The Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor. And in every province and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness." So we have a picture here of the wedding feast of the Lamb. So after we get resurrected, we go meet Yahshua in the sky. We have this glorious, wonderful wedding feast of the Lamb. And then it says in the remainder of verse 17, they had a feast and a good day, and many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them. It's like there's this huge conversion of so many people becoming Jews now because of what had happened. And this reminds me of in Isaiah 60. This is at the very beginning of the millennial kingdom, when we have returned with Yahshua down on Mount Olives. Yahshua has destroyed the Antichrist and the beast army, and we are now ruling and reigning with him from Jerusalem. And there are still many unconverted people on planet Earth at that time. It says in Isaiah 60, "Arise, shine, for your light is come, and the glory of Yah is risen upon you. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But Yahweh shall arise upon you, and his glory shall be seen upon you. And the Gentiles shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising. Lift up your eyes round about and see all they that gather themselves together. They come to you. Your sons shall come from far, and your daughters shall be nursed at your side. Then you shall see and flow together, and your heart shall fear and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto you, and the forces of the Gentiles shall come unto you. And you can continue reading in Isaiah 60 for that beautiful picture of all these people now coming up to Jerusalem. And it just totally reminds me of that verse in Esther where all these people became Jews. They converted to Jews after Mordecai and Esther's mighty victory. And then, of course, as we're proceeding on in Esther chapter 9, in verse 2, it says, the Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of the king to lay hands on such as sought their hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all people. Now this reminds me of Yahshua's return to earth as pictured in Revelation 19. I mean, here he comes on a white-winged steed. He explodes from the sky with the heavenly armies, and he comes down and destroys all of his enemies, and no man can withstand him. We read about that in Revelation chapter 19, starting in verse 11. And I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. His eyes were as flames of fire, and on his head were many crowns, and he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of Yah. And the armies which were in heaven followed him, upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and tread at the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of Almighty Yah. And he hath on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And then it goes on to describe the destruction that happens to the beast's armies. So this reminds me of the end of Esther, where the Jewish people are now allowed to destroy those whom were appointed to destroy them. Haman was going to unleash the fury of the kingdom against the Jews at this certain time, and instead that was reversed, and the Jews were able to basically destroy their enemies. So there's just one thing after another that has these prophetic shadow pictures that are then later described in the book of Isaiah and Daniel and Revelation. The very, very end of Esther in chapter 10. Let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, it talks about how basically Ahasuerus lays tribute upon the entire land, and Mordecai is made like the second highest in all the land. And again, this reminds me of just the millennial kingdom, where Yahshua is ruling and reigning from Jerusalem, no doubt laying tribute upon the various lands. In fact, we read in Zechariah 14 that all nations are going to be commanded to come up to Jerusalem for the Feast of Tabernacles. And of course, those who do not, they won't receive any rain. It'll just be drought. So we have the same type of picture here, where the king lays tribute upon the land, upon the isles of the sea. It goes all across the known world at that time. Mordecai is next unto the king. He's great among the Jews. He's accepted by the multitude of his brethren. He seeks the wealth of his people and speaks peace to all his seed. And of course, we know during the time when Yahshua is ruling and reigning from Jerusalem that Jerusalem will be made a praise in all the earth. Israel will be a diamond, a gem, a glittering jewel, the center of the earth. So anyway, these are just some prophetic pictures in the Book of Esther. Certainly not an exhaustive study. I'm sure there are many, many more in the Book of Esther. Maybe you can find them yourself. But I just wanted to share those few with you on this Feast of Purim that's about to begin. Okay, Yah bless, Shabbat Shalom. The website is www.spiritandtorah.com.